Welcome to the City of Florissant podcast, where we talk anything and everything related to the beautiful City of Florissant.
Hi, I'm Mayor Tim Lowry, and welcome to another edition of the Marriage Podcast Show. With me today is Mr. Tony Maldonado, who is a lifelong Florissant resident, a dear friend, and the chairman of the Hispanic Leaders Group here in the St. Louis area. Tony, what brings you here today?
Well, first of all, Mayor, I'd like to thank you for having me here with you today. What I wanted to talk about today is about the efforts that the Hispanic Leaders Group has done to provide some financial assistance to deserving Hispanic students that are going to be going into colleges and university throughout this state and even beyond. There are a lot of Hispanic students that are the first in their family that are going to be able to go to college and university.
That's because of these scholarships you guys are able to give them.
Yes. They're not a lot of big monetary scholarship, but it's enough to in some cases to push them over that line to go. The parents are working and they're doing their best to afford a good education for their children, especially parents that have relocated to our city, county, and state are doing the best that they can to juggle these financial responsibilities. But back in 2007, the Hispanic Leaders Group had conversation with different Hispanic groups in the area and found that each group was paying a venue in order to give a $1,000 scholarship or a $2,000 scholarship, but they would spend $1,000 in order to do that. So the brainchild of the Hispanic Scholarship Alliance came out of that meeting, and retired Lieutenant Colonel Jaime Torres wrote up a memorandum of understanding where these organizations can come together in one joint ceremony, thus saving them the money for paying a venue or restaurant and things like that. And that afforded those organizations to give another scholarship back then. So this thought and this process started in 2007. and 2008, we had our first Hispanic Scholarship Alliance joint ceremony in Soulard. Gilberto Pinella was our first MC. There were 8 students at that time, and the charter members of the organization at that time were Puerto Rican Society, Venezuelan Association, the Hispanic Leaders Group, and the AT&T Latino employees named Hacemos, which means we will do. So out of that first ceremony in 2008, just fast forward to today, out of those few members, now we have 12 plus.
Oh, wow.
And yes,
12 different organizations.
12 different organizations have
scholarships.
joined us to give scholarships. We gave the first ceremony. We gave about $8,000 to $10,000 in scholarship money. The majority of that money was no strings attached. Once we wrote a check to the student, it was up to them to spend it. But we found that those students were very responsible. Used the money for books or used the money to buy their food cards for college, or for supplies to supply their dormitory room if they went out of the city and out of the county. The Scholarship Alliance today, one of the heartfelt gratitude things that we have is that Florissant, you, Mayor, have allowed us, because of the pandemic, to continue the tradition of having a joint ceremony, via virtual.
Right.
So that's where we're at today. We're doing a virtual joint ceremony, and you will not see the students except for in pictures, but you will see the presenters of these organizations come together July 28th here at the studio and put on the program.
Well, we're certainly excited to host this for the Hispanic Leaders Group and all the organizations, and how much it really does mean to the city of Florissant that you're actually recognizing not just our residents, but the residents of the entire St. Louis area and the Hispanics, and getting these kids into college, and how important it is for our area to push our kids forward. So we're very excited to host this event this year.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Like I said, we're very grateful, and we're also very excited to come into your studio, which is nice, remodeled studio here in Florissant. And I know that you're doing a lot of good for the city with this studio and the personnel you have here. One thing I did wanted to mention was that our live stream, when you can get on there, you have to go to www.stl.org to get a link to get on. You'll be able to get that by July 20th, 21st by going to www.stlhog.org to get that link. We're also going to try to send an email blast to our membership, the students, and the Alliance members so that they can get on live stream with us. And if anybody in the Florissant community wants to get to see this program, wants to get to know what this is, it's really a heartfelt initiative that the Hispanic Leaders Group has put together. And this year will be our 16th year. So we're really looking forward to doing this again. We'll have a great testimony from a student. Okay, case in point. So a few years back, like in 2009, 2010, there was a student, a young lady by the name of Maria May Gonzalez, and she had gotten a scholarship. She got one from the Puerto Rican Society, one from the Hispanic Leaders Group, and she was able to get a match through UMSO, and she was able to get some of her studies taken care of for her bachelor's degree. Immediately she went into her master's study. Immediately she went into her doctor's study, and she is now a doctor and a psychologist in University State of Washington. She's going to be our mentorship speaker. She will do the testimony on behalf of the students of what it means to be able to get a scholarship through the Hispanic Scholarship Alliance.
Wow, what an unbelievable success story she
Yes.
is. Absolutely. Be excited to hear what she's got to say, and
Yeah.
certainly appreciate her accomplishments. And it all began because of the scholarships that you
Yeah.
guys were able to provide. So how many scholarships will you guys be able to provide this year through all the organizations?
Well, last year we provided 79 scholarships. And we're hoping that this year we could do that. Because of the pandemic, this year we were feeling the effects of 2020 and 2021 in terms of donations from our sponsors and from our silent donors that didn't want their names mentioned, but they had donated to us. And so we just keep our fingers crossed. This year we're happy to have Nike join us, and to have Pfizer join us, and to have Liuna Local 110 join us in helping to put money into the fund so we can give it back out to deserving students.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job, and we certainly appreciate everything that you do, your efforts. And you mentioned our media department, our studio. These Steve Kinnison and his employees here have done an unbelievable job with this studio, what they've turned us into, and they did most of the work themselves, and certainly very proud to be able to sit in here and conduct these type of interviews in the studio that they've worked so hard to accomplish. So we certainly appreciate what they've done.
Yes, and it's a very welcoming studio too. So you guys get ready. I'm probably going to be here after you leave for about another hour just yapping.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything else you want to add, Tony?
No, just tune in.
Well, we certainly appreciate your efforts and the efforts of all the leaders in the Hispanic community for bringing these scholarships together for these deserving students.
Yes, and thank you, because this community continues to be very powerful in the sense of a sense of community. It doesn't matter where I have traveled and met a lot of people in other communities, in Florissant has a great sense of community.
Thank you. And that's certainly something that we definitely promote, and we certainly appreciate everything that you do for our community because you give a lot back yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
This concludes another edition of the Mayor's Podcast Show. We are Florissant Strong.